Greetings and welcome to my video. This is a tutorial video in response to Agent Tomcat's request just on how to make this here counter. So for anyone who looks at this and goes, oh, I know how that works, I can go build it now, great, off you go. Anyone who wants to know how it works, I'll run you through that next. Anyone who looks at this and their brain melts but wants to build one, I will walk you through step by step on how to build one from scratch. So the basic concept of how this works is firstly it has a double reset. Now the reset's up here at the top from that inverter right here. And it's set up so that once it counts through all 5 and it gets a 6th pulse, it will then reset itself. You can also just reset it from the button. Now the input down here is, if you have anything longer than the pulse from a button, you'll need to put it through a short pulse generator to shorten the length of the input so it is only a short pulse. As this only works on a short pulse, anything longer will trigger multiple circuits, and a constant input will just trigger one after the other until they all turn on, and then it resets itself and it repeats the process, which can also be quite useful in its own right. So firstly I'll just give you a quick demonstration of how it works, and the way I'm going to do that is I've got set up over here, I'm going to connect the input down the bottom here to this switch over here. That's not a switch, that's a button, to this button, and I'm going to connect this button at the top to the reset at the top over here. That just makes seeing the circuits work a little easier. So as you can see, when I send a pulse through, we get one light, and as I send another pulse we get another light and another pulse and another pulse, and then for the last one, and now we have all 5 lights on. And if we send one more through, the whole thing turns off and is ready to go again. And of course we can just reset it with the switch at the top. And again, that's not a switch, that's a button. So the way this works is it just works on the delay that these have. So as the signal comes through, it tries to send a pulse to all of them at the same time. Now the pulse will get through the first one and activates this one, but as it activates it, the pulse stops, so it can't send power through. But this one is now ready to send power through. So when the pulse comes through a second time, the pulse will travel through this next one, travel into there and activate this one, but of course the pulse stops and it will just wait there until it receives another pulse. So it's literally just one after the other counter, and it just works on the delay that these have when you need to activate them. And so as you can see, if I had a long pulse, I'd have to make sure it didn't continue through, so I can just do that with a short generator down the bottom there. However, like I said, if I were to connect this up, so now when the switch turns on it generates a constant flow of power, they all just light up and it won't even reset itself. Not until you turn that off. If, however, I were to change this into a continuous pulse generator, that will now generate about a 1 second pulse every 1 second, I can get it to toggle all the way through, and then even at the end it will actually reset itself and start again. But that will only work so long as there is only pulses coming through. You can't have a constant flow of power. So that is one problem with it, but you can fix that like so. Turn it off, and now we have only 3 lights lit. And of course we can just push our button to toggle that inverter and it all resets. So to build this, we'll come over to a little bit of blank wall here, and the basic circuit of it is, for the first count, so for number 1, I call it number 1, you just need 1 automatic switch at the top and 1 automatic switch at the bottom, roughly in those sorts of positions. You can make them closer or position them how you like, but that's roughly what you need. For every number after that you need 3 automatic switches, 1 there, 1 in the middle, and 1 at the bottom. So now we have 1 and 2, and if I wanted to put a 3rd down, again we'd have to put 3 automatic switches like so. And we just continue that process for however many we want to have for our count to go. Now to wire these up, first thing we'll do is we'll connect the wire from this automatic switch at the bottom to the toggle on that side. That then goes from there to the top on that one. That then connects to the middle on this automatic switch here. You then connect that to there on the top of that one, and from there you just simply keep repeating that process for however many inputs you have. So if I had another one, I'd just go again to the next switch. So you basically end up with this little loopy circuit going on here. The next connection you make is you connect the bottom of all of these together. Now just make sure it's only the bottom of those, don't cross the wires over, and that can go to our reset. Now as I said, this needs to be a constant flow of power, so it's usually better to have something like a power inverter, however you want to set it up, and then toggle that with some sort of button. So we have our mains power here ready to go, and we connect that to our button, but we'd also have to connect that to our power inverter so that we can power the top of those. So that's our reset basically set up once you connect the button, of course, to the inverter. The next wiring you need to put in is down the bottom here. So you need to connect that to the bottom of here, but you'll notice on the first one it doesn't have one of those in the middle. That just goes straight from the bottom to that one. But for all the rest, you have to put that connection in there and do that for all of them. The next connection you make is on the bottom ones, connect the side triggers all together, like so. Now this is our input, so we could just plug this straight into whatever it is that we want to power it. The simplest thing is a button. So if we add power to our button and then connect that to all of our triggers, that's how we trigger it all. To power everything else up, you simply connect the bottom of these all together, like so, and that also just goes straight to mains power. You don't need to put any sort of switch, toggle, or anything in between that. All of that can just be supplied with constant power. And that right there is the counter. So now when we push the bottom button, we get one of those to light up, but the rest don't light up. And when we push the button again, the next one will light up, and so on and so forth. And of course with our top button, that's how we turn it all off. And then you connect, as I did with this one over here, whatever it is that you want to light up, toggle, switch, to the top of your automatic switches that you have put down. So just at the top there. It can be from either point, it doesn't really matter. I usually go from the top, and you just connect that to what you want to toggle. If you wanted to add in that little switch at the end so that it resets itself once it receives enough counts, you simply need to add in 2 more automatic switches at the end here. So you add these 2 in down the bottom, like so, as if you were adding another counter, but you don't put the top one in. You then wire these up the same as you have for all the rest across the bottom. So supply them power, like so, then connect the triggers together, like that, and connect the top of that to the bottom of that one. You then connect your last count output. It can be connected to anything else as well, but you also connect it then to this, as you have done with all the others. But the output of this one then goes back and across to trigger this inverter. So once you have added those 2 circuits in and put that across the top, this will now reset itself once it receives a 4th input. So as you can see, we toggle each button, each one turns green, and then when we toggle it again, it resets itself. And that is how you create the counter. Hopefully I've supplied you with enough information and answered any questions you might have. If there's anything else you'd like to know, let me know. I have been toying with the idea of creating a multi-digit counter, but I'm having some issues with it working smoothly and resetting the way it should. So that's a whole story for a different time. Thank you for watching, and happy creating!